Welcome to Groundhog Graphics Retro. My name is Martin, and this video is about customizing the keyboard map in the VICE Commodore emulator. Remapping the keys in VICE may be challenging for some people. It definitely was for me. There isn't a lot of documentation online about it, and it is somewhat intimidating when you look at it. But I've gone through it, and I have remapped some keys for Power C, and I will be providing that keyboard map available for free as a download to anybody who wants to use it for Power C. But because I had to actually remap those keys, I had to learn about the file, and now I'm going to share with you what I've learned about those files so you guys can also make your own custom key maps for VICE. So, without further ado, let's get to it.
Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to locate the folder where VICE will have your key map files. If you know where you installed VICE, you can simply just go there. If you're not exactly sure, but you have a shortcut on the screen, we can find it from there. I have a shortcut right here, so I'm going to go ahead and right click, and then I'm going to go open file location. This opens us up to the binary folder inside of your VICE folder. But we don't want to be in here. We want to go up one level, and then we want to go to whichever computer system you would like to edit the mapping file. Mapping files are in each model here. So I'm going to go to C64, and then I'm going to go down until I see these .vkm files. Now, all these .vkm files are different map options for VICE, and they have quite a few different ones. And the ideal thing to do is to pick one that is closest to the map that you already want, and that way when you make your changes, you don't have to make as many changes. So I'm going to go ahead and pick GTK3 sim.vkm, and your icon may not be like this because I have associated this with my text editor and Windows has given it that icon, but it could just be a white icon. So I'm going to go ahead and double click, and now here we are in the VICE keyboard mapping file.
Okay, so this file is old, and it does not have definitions for the control key or the Commodore CBM key. Even though this file is the symbolic file that I want to work with, it is outdated. So the first thing I'll need to do is update it. You may or may not have this problem, and if you do not, please feel free to skip ahead. But if you do, let me show you what we need to do. So what we need to do is we need to go back to the folder that we were in, the one that we got the keyboard mapping file that we want to edit from, and we need to go down to a file called GTK3 sim.de.vkm. There may be other files in here that have this information. I don't know. I haven't been through every single one. But this one does have some up-to-date information, and it was up-to-date enough for me to do what I needed to do. So if there is something lacking, and feel like there is a key or something that just isn't listed that you do need, you should look through these remaining VKM files to see if it is possibly in there. So I'm going to go ahead and double click, and now here we are with a more updated list of key definitions. So we begin by copying all of this text, all of this updated text, all the way down to the bottom of vcontrol, virtual control. I'm going to hit Control C for copy, and then I'm going to go to my old file and I'm going to replace all of the old information. So I'm going to select it, all the old information, all the way down to where they assign Shift L Shift. And then I'm going to hit Control V, and that will paste over all of this old text. Now we have updated information in our mapping file. Now, you can come down here where it says symbolic mapping, you can change that. Well, if you're, I mean, you can change it if you need to. I mean, I'm still using symbolic mapping, but I'm not using a German layout. So, for myself, I could change it to Power C layout. So that'd be for my Power C compiler for the Commodore. You can, of course, label it whatever it is that's custom for you. All right, so now let's scroll down to very first definition, backspace, and it is 0 and a 0. These first two digits refer to a position on a grid. And let's go up to the grid, which is right here, and you can see that bit 0 and up here bit 0 is a delete key. Let's go back down, backspace on your keyboard, backspace, then it refers to 0, 0 on the Commodore keyboard grid. And this is the Commodore keyboard grid. This is the row, and then this is the column. The very first number refers to the row. The second number refers to the column. Let's go ahead and compare another key. Let's go down to the plus sign. It is row 5, column 0. Let's go up and look at row 5, column 0 for the plus sign. So we have row 5, column 0. There's a plus sign on the Commodore keyboard. Now, you'll also notice that some of these boxes have more than one character. The character to the left, as in, let's take for example, bit 1, row bit 1, and column bit 0. The number 3 is the unshifted key on the Commodore keyboard. If we were to combine a shift with our key press, then we would have a pound symbol. So let's go down and take a look at the definition for this key. So it will be in row 1 and column 0. So here we are. We are in row 1 and 0, and it says number sign, which is the pound sign next to the 3. If we notice to the right, there is this 1 right here. That 1 we will use as a shift flag. So if we scroll back up and we see our shift flags, 1, key is combined with shift for this key symbol scan code. So let's go ahead and scroll down to our grid. And let's see, RS, run stop. That will be row 7, and it will be column 7. So it will be all the way at the bottom of our, well, not all the way at the bottom, but close to the bottom of our definitions. And let's see, row 7, column 7. Our escape key is our run stop key, because on our host keyboard, the escape key translates to row 7, column 7. 8 means that it can be shifted or not shifted. Let's go up and look at the shift flags. Right here. And we see that number 8, key can be shifted or not with this key symbol scan code. Let's go ahead and open the emulator and try run stop and then a shift run stop. I'm going to try using the super CPU emulator because I know that will have an effect. Okay, so here we are in the super CPU emulator in Vice, and I'm going to go ahead and write a little program. Print. Okay, so this program obviously prints hello on the screen. It will never end because it has a go-to statement to 10, and let's run it. So there's hello, and now I'm going to hit the escape key on my keyboard, and that's run stop. Obviously, that will make it stop. There it is. It worked. Now, if I hold shift and I hit the escape key, remember this key can be shifted or not shifted. Now, for Jiffy DOS, it automatically loaded the disk file that was in the drive, power C in this case. So now let's go back to the key mapping file. So now we are back in a key mapping file, which is not the same key mapping file that we were looking at. This is one that I have already customized for Power C, and the reason why I have brought us this is because I have used some combinations of keys that are more complex than what are in some of the standard files. So I think it would be good for me to go over what I did with those. Also, I think I should mention that I should have mentioned this earlier, but the pound symbols here, or known as hashtags these days, are for remarks. So every time you see that before a line, that entire line is not actually processed. It is just a remark line, just to let you know, comment. And then we also have keywords, and these keywords do special things like clear a whole table. At the beginning of every map file, there needs to be a clear to clear the existing map that may be in memory. So it clears it. Then there's an include to include another file name. I haven't used it. Um, and then there is L shift for left shift, row and column. You're basically your left shift, your right shift, and there's a virtual shift. All these shifts on your Commodore keyboard need to be mapped to the grid. Down below, we see left control, virtual control. These two need to be mapped to the grid. And we have left Commodore key control, or not, I'm sorry, left Commodore CBM key, and we have virtual CBM key. And those also have to be mapped. And then we have undefined key symbol. I haven't used it yet. So obviously it undefines whatever key symbol that was previously defined, whatever use that is. So now, something else we should know about shift flags. Shift flags can be used individually, like we have seen so far. However, they can also be combined by adding values together. And when I show you some of my key definitions, I will show you how I've had to combine a couple of numbers together, add them together to make my keys work. And let's see here. And it says here to migrate older key maps and use a CBM key and control related features. We need to define the left control virtual. Well, we just went over that. We can add key as left CBM control and emulated machines flags to all keys that map to the CBM or control key respectively. Not exactly sure if I followed that tip to make it work, but we'll see. I don't think I did. I think I had to do something different. So now we also have negative row values. It does mapping for the joysticks in the file, and I have not messed with that at all. Joystick direction values, haven't messed with it. Joystick has a grid as well that can be followed. Let's see here. Now here we are where we actually have our keywords defined. Notice the first thing is it clears the map. The next one is it defines the L shift, the left shift on the Commodore. It defines it as row 1, column 7. Let's take a look. Row 1, column 7. Is that right? Shift lock. Oh, for left shift, right. Left shift. I was like, what? Left shift, so that's shift lock. And then right shift is 6-4. So let's see, 6 and 4. And that is SR for shift right, I presume. And then V shift, it's important to be defined. I don't know exactly what the point of it, what it does exactly, but V shift, and it defines it as same as R shift. Shift L is also defined as L shift up here. And LCBM is 7-5, row 7. column 5, and we see the Commodore key. And virtual CBM is the same as the left CBM, and left control is 7-2. So row 7, column 2, there's control key. So as you can see, I don't have this 100% figured out. As I said, I had to do it for what I needed to do, but I think this will get you started. So now let's go ahead and go down to some of my key definitions. Beginning with underscore, this will be a good example. We have 2064, so we have row 5, column 6, and a shift flag of 2064. This combines two different shift flags. So let's go up to row 5, column 6, and then we'll go to shift flags. So we have row 5, and we go to column 6, and it is the @ symbol. In Power C, the @ symbol combined with the Commodore key will give you an underscore. So that means when we go up here to our shift flag, we had, how much was it? It was 2064, right? So that means I combined it with 16. 16 is a D shift key for this key symbol scan code. Now you may be going, what is D shift? Well, on our normal host keyboard, when we use an underscore, we have to hit shift minus. Therefore, I have to use the D shift. Otherwise, Vice will add the shift to the interpretation of the key, and therefore I have to de-shift it because I'm not actually using a shift. I'm using Commodore key with with the @ symbol. So even though I'm using the shift key, I have to de-shift the key. And then I have 2048. Key is combined with CBM for this key symbol scan code. I did not use key is left CBM on emulated machines. As I recall, it didn't work. So now let's go down and look at another key. Or actually, let me go and I'll show you that the key is working. Let me show you that real quick. Okay, so now I'm going to type hello and underscores. So I'm using the actual shift minus sign on my keyboard, but it is translating to the Commodore key and the @ symbol on the Commodore keyboard. Now let's go back to the file. Okay, so now we know what 2064 does, and I have it 3 times here. We're not going to go over those. Now we have the graphical up arrow, which is not the cursor key, just the graphical one that prints on the screen. I have mapped that to the delete key. It also happens to be shift 6, but I also wanted it to be the delete key. It's a special key for my Power C, and that's what I wanted. It was more comfortable for me to have it there. So I mapped it to row 6 and column 6. Row 6, column 6, arrow up, there it is, and 0 is it is not shifted. So now we have a brace left, brace right. We have row 5, column 0, and the key is shifted for that. Let's take a look at it. Row 5, column 0. Row 5, column 0, key is shifted. So the plus symbol. Yeah, that's right. For my braces in C, they are actually custom characters in Power C. And so that symbol will not be on this list, but it is Shift plus for my brace. And brace left and brace right, and they are shifted. So, and the other one will be the minus key. And let's see what we have here. Shift lock, caps lock, and we used a keyboard, well, we used a shift flag of 64. So row 1, column 7, 64. Row 1, column 7, shift lock. There it is. Now we go up and see what 64. Key is shift lock on emulated machine. So that just defines shift lock. Now we have control key, control left, which is the CBM key. Yes, okay, so that is row 7, column 5, and 8200. We already know how the row and column work, so let's go ahead and find out what 8200 is. 8200 is another combination. It is 8192, key is left CBM on emulator machine. So I did use it, and apparently it does work in that respect. So I guess because I'm defining the CBM key, I used left CBM. But when I used another key in combination with it, then I used this shift flag. So I did 8192, and then because it was 8200, I added 8. So key can be shifted or not with this key symbol scan code. So you can have a shift and a Commodore key at the same time if you need to. And then control key, let's see. Okay, so the tab key, I believe on the symbolic keyboard, the more modern one, is, I think it's the Commodore key. I think that's what it is. And what I did, I just didn't feel comfortable with the tab key, felt more like it would be the control key. So I changed it. I swapped it with the control left key. So the control left key was my control key before because it was symbolic. So it mapped control to control. But I didn't like that. So I mapped CBM to the control key. Tab key is now my control. And then control key again is ISO left tab. Now, this is a good point because you're seeing a lot of these names, caps lock, control A. How am I going to know what name is supposed to be for each key on this keyboard to map to? That's great. We have an answer for that. Let's go ahead and go to the emulator. Okay, now we're back in the emulator. I'm going to hit Alt B and bring up a menu. Here is our menu. If we go to settings and we go to settings again and we go to keyboard right here, at the very bottom it has an option, enable keyboard debugging on status bar. Check that. When we close it, you will see at the bottom of the screen here that I hit the B key and it shows this. Now let me change our view here. Alt D. See what it says. Oh, I thought it said it was shifted or not. But let me hit like the A key. So that's just A. But you see how it changes. Let's try Shift Tab. Shift Tab is ISO underscore left underscore tab. And those capitals are important as well. And it also has the S. It shows it was shifted. So let's see what else we have. Space bar, space. If I want to do underscore, there it is, underscore, and it shows it was shifted with the S flag right there. There is no explanation that I have found for all of these positions for these flags, so I don't know what they all do. And it would be great if somebody who knows about documentation on that or can shed some light on it would be great. But this is at least how you can get these names for each key on your keyboard. If I want to hit the F1 key, it shows F1. So I would define it as F1 and then whatever corresponding key on the Commodore grid is how I would do it. So that is how, let's see, caps lock. Caps lock right there. And it shows it. Why does it show it as that? I know we don't define it that way. Let's see here. Reset, hard reset. This probably won't make any difference. So for some reason, it doesn't give the caps lock. And luckily, that's already been listed in the file, but I don't know why it doesn't give it. It just gives us a hex number. Let's see what tab key. Tab works. Shift, left shift, shift L, that works. Control key works. Everything but the caps lock. Caps lock doesn't seem to want to work. Backspace, it says backspace right there. Notice the capital S. So this is how you find the keys that you needed to find. Okay, now there was one more problem that I ran into. When I redefined the control key, the CPM key, I noticed the colors. We hit control 1, 2, 3. Let me see. All right, when I hit control 1, 2, 3, or if I hit, in my case, the tab key for the control key, none of the colors were working. And I'm like, okay, why is that not working? Well, it was an easy fix. I'm going to show you now. Let's go back to the map file. So here we are. If you scroll down in your map file, you're going to find letters and numbers. And right here we have all the numbers, 0 through 9. And we need these for our colors. And when I came down here, all of these shift flags were zeros. And I don't know why the shift flag is required for this, but it is. So I changed these to 8s. And now that makes them, if we go up here, that makes them where the key can be shifted or not with this key symbol scan code. That fixed the problem. So if you are having that issue, go down to your letters and numbers, change the shift flag from a 0 to an 8, and that should do it. I think that concludes our video on the key mapping on Vice. I hope it's been helpful. I know it's not been completely thorough. As I said, there is no documentation that I can find on this. So, I mean, and I have only edited one file. So this is the best I can do, and I hope that it helps you guys. And I'm sure there's a lot more to this. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you in the next video.